On Good Friday, I chartered a 30-foot pontoon boat, and Emery and Krista and myself, along with Gordon Quinton, who's a long-time off and on private client, and his wife Marie, we went out on the water, and we toured privately with Captain Jim all of the different affluent neighborhoods. The rich of the rich, you can call it. And as much as I don't participate in any of that Hollywood celebrity nonsense, none of it at all. I mean, I would watch maybe 10 movies a year, and they're all documentaries. There's all a reason to watch them. They're all teaching documentaries, that kind of thing. So I'm not into the celebrity thing at all. I think it's a bunch of garbage. And I think a lot of those people are overrated. I think you have a lot of has-beens being held up on pedestals, and it's just not my cup of whiskey. But I love excellence, and I love examples of winning, and I love examples of people that pulled themselves up from the hardest, harshest circumstances in life. I love the rags to riches story. I despise the term self-made because there's no such thing as self-made. My father has always said that you'll meet the same people on the way down as you did on the way up. And that's a message about treating everyone with respect, but there's no such thing as a person who's self-made. We need relationships, we need mentors, we need coaches, we need good fortune, we need work ethic, we need people to help us, we need great team members, employees, managers, the whole deal. But I love the rags to riches situation, the American dream, so to speak. And whenever we're in a community like Naples here, this is something that's been on the calendar for a while. And I don't want to take a boat cruise with everybody else, so I chartered this little pontoon boat. It's 30 feet. It's the same size of pontoon boat as we have at the lake back at home in Canada. And Captain Jim's been at this for 30 plus years, so he knows all the homes, and more importantly, knows all the stories of the owners. But this is a mental thing for me, and it all has to do with wealth attraction, success attraction. And as much as that may seem a little woo-woo, it used to me, there is absolutely no question whatsoever that we can attract wealth, we can attract good fortune, we can attract good people, we can attract money into our lives, opportunity. There's no question about it. It's a fact. It's not something that is up for debate. With that in mind, one of the wealth attraction secrets that I've used for a number of years is when we're living somewhere else, is I love to go through those neighborhoods, especially on the water, and see the homes of these affluent, ultra successful people, because I love success. I'm the absolute opposite of 99% of the people who look for any opportunity to say, well, they're lucky, or they inherited their money, or they had a head start. When the fact of the matter is, in about 85% of the ultra affluent cases in North America and worldwide, is 85% of these people actually started with no head start. And elbow grease and grit and determination and all this other stuff that is key to success. Now, that's not the story that the mediocre majority wants to tell, right? They want to say that these people that live in these big homes and drive these fancy cars and run these big companies are crooks or cheaters or lucky and all that stuff. So I do the exact opposite, and it's one of the reasons I take my daughter Emery on this cruise with me. I want her to see, okay, the money flowing in today's world. Whether she gets that when she's 9 years old, I don't know, and I don't care. I want her to see that there's unlimited opportunity everywhere. You know, she may end up being a veterinarian. She may end up running a charitable animal shelter. She may end up, being a power skating coach, or she may end up running her own equestrian farm. I don't care what she does, long as it's her passion and obsession, and long as she has a mission. So with that in mind, I love personally to see examples of affluence, opportunity, and abundance. It's the opposite of what you're hearing every day if you're listening to any mainstream news, if you're listening to any economic news. It's all bad news, especially now, because they're driving this home that, the economy, that's the next thing, and the virus and everything else. So if you can not only eliminate yourself out of those swamps, in other words, stop watching any mainstream news, take all that shit off your phone, completely leave social media for good. That's another mental illness swamp designed to addict you. If you can eliminate all of this toxicity, this gasoline that you're pouring into your mind every day, and replace it with abundance thinking and affluence thinking and wealth thinking, you have no idea what that'll do in terms of your business, your marriage, your relationship with your children. The sky is literally the limit. So we toured for 3 hours on Good Friday, and we just had a hell of a time. And this guy, Captain Jim, was awesome. He was a local guy. He's been doing this for 30 plus years. And I'm interested in the story of every home, because I love to study, company owners and founders. And everybody was out there, everybody from the Anheuser-Busch founders, and the boats are all parked in front. And with that boat, that was the one that had, it was called, what was the boat name? The boat was called Built by Beer. And I mean, this boat was insane, incredible. And Michael Jordan has a boat here in Naples, and it had I forget the name of it. It had 23 something. I forget what it was, but it was phenomenal. John Bon Jovi had one of the nicest homes in the entire area. We go down all those little channels, right? We go down all those little channels, and you get to see, and the homes get bigger and bigger and bigger as you go down those channels. So we got to see, some top Amazon guys, Mary Kay, the big $35 million pink home, and it just goes on and on from there. But I just find it fascinating and inspiring. When I got off that boat after 3 hours, and I know I'm different than most other people, I'm just, I'm more inspired and more motivated and more driven than ever before. I'm like, wow, next level. It's a reminder for achievers that, there is a next level, and there are more dreams and there are more goals if that's something you want to do. And that's why I subscribe to real magazines like Forbes. I subscribe to Finest Homes in America, ForbesHomes.com. I have all kinds of properties on there that I print off in full color, and I tear these out of the magazines, whatever they are. Sometimes they're homes, sometimes they're boats, sometimes they're cars, sometimes they're vacations, sometimes they're islands. I love the islands. And I rip these out of the magazines, the full page copy. Some of them are advertisements, and I put them up on my cork board, my 8x4 vision board. And I get to stare at these every single day when I'm working and when I'm not working. I get to see places we want to travel to, Scotland, Ireland, Italy, Alaska. I want to go see the polar bears and the glaciers, Iceland, Sweden, all these places. I get to see these homes, these islands that you can rent and lease. I get to see these different vehicles and planes and helicopters and all this amazing stuff. And whether I'm interested in achieving that or not is not the point. The point is, it expands my thinking. It expands my abundant thinking, and it attracts me. It attracts money. It attracts success. It attracts positive energy. it's just a complete success magnet. And man, I love that 3 hours. And it just opens up my thinking to, I see the basketball courts and the play structures outside of these homes. And when everybody else is criticizing, like especially, Captain Jim, God bless him, but he's got to make an excuse for every home, right? This guy here, this home here is worth $50 million. He never uses it, and it's a crime, and he's a crook, and nobody needs that much money. I think completely the opposite, especially in the self-made situation, because I know a lot about those guys by serious study. So, a guy like John Bon Jovi, I mean, he kept his nose clean. He's married to his high school sweetheart, and he's earned every damn dollar. And, really solid guy, does a lot in his community, does a lot for charity. And if he wants to have a home like that in Naples plus 5 more, then God bless him, because that's good for everybody. He wants to drive a boat like that he uses 5 times a year, that's great. People say they see him down here in Naples pumping his own gas, so he's that type of Jersey guy. And I've always had a lot of respect for a guy who can keep his head on straight in the rock and roll business. It reminds me of the Gene Simmons situation, where he never drank alcohol, never used drugs, never smoked a cigarette, and basically just built his business into 300 different companies by keeping his head on straight in an industry where drugs and alcohol and women and fame just destroy 99.9% of entertainers. So it was fantastic to see these homes. There was one boat that was $35,000 to fill with fuel, and the guy would fill it about once a month because he was taking trips back and forth to the Bahamas. And a lot of tech guys out there now, everybody from Papa John's, and I mean, it's endless. A lot of entertainers, a couple of guys from the Eagles band, which was really, really awesome. And the guy who owns one of the biggest homes was at the very end, was the owner of of an NFL team. What's his name? He was the owner of the it'll come to me in a second. Doesn't make any difference. But just extreme wealth and abundance. So that's why I also, like I just mentioned, I have all these magazines coming in, and I'm not interested on looking at these magazines online. I love to have them come in and just to leaf through them on Sundays, or when I'm sitting waiting for Emery at one of her activities. I'll just go through these magazines with the homes and the cars and the vacations. And if I see something that inspires me and motivates me, I just tear it out and I throw the magazine away when I'm done. I also have magazines like Harry Rosen in Canada, which is a really cool magazine. It's a high-end menswear, and it's just, the fashions and the suits and the ties and the gorgeous shirts and all this other stuff. Plus it comes with always an incredible rags to riches story of one of their high-end clients. So it all goes back to my theory of tripping over success, to burying yourself in success, in doing the opposite of what's happening to you on purpose. In other words, the media and society and social media and all these other big forms of influence are trying to make you small. They're trying to make you feel little. They're trying to make you feel down. They're trying to make you feel guilty. Well, you know what? Build your world where you're immersed in excellence and success. Build your own personal world, your home, your business, where all you do is trip over success. A guy like Nick Saban, or a guy like Bill Belichick, or a guy like Mike Krzyzewski, any of these guys, what they do when they take over a team or a program is they just go in and they literally just build a brand new world. They take a culture of losing, if that's what they inherit, and they just completely do the opposite. but there's not a wall, there's not a ceiling, there's not a weight room, there's not a desk, there's not a piece of carpet, there's not a piece of paper, there's not a pen, there's not a bathroom, there's nothing that doesn't cry excellence. And then, you know, a lot of people wonder why those guys are so driven, because environment matters. You know, your home matters, your office matters, your workspace matters, your vehicle matters, how you dress matters, your personal grooming matters. But environment is a huge one. And I use like trips like that to go see affluent, ultra affluent homes, and also with the content that I'm consuming, especially the physical magazines and things. I can't recommend getting Forbes magazine, a physical copy of that, not just for looking, but also for reading. It's the last business magazine worth reading, honest to God. The rest of it is garbage, mental trash, these posers trying to pretend that they have business magazines when, you know, they're anti-capitalism, they're apologetic, they're anti-entrepreneurship, and all this other BS. Forbes still has it going, and that's my favorite business magazine, but it's also great for my vision board and things like that. So that was some rambling today, but man, did I love Good Friday on the boat. That was one of my favorite events. I love getting out on the water. I'm used to being on the water every day when we're home, and to be out there and just being awash, just being immersed in the American dream, being immersed in the rags to riches story, and not looking at it like the mediocre majority where I'm, you know, shaming them or I have to criticize them to make myself feel better. I'm doing the opposite. I'm like, how did he do that? How did she do that? How did they build that? What can I learn from this? You know, or I see the court, or how could I make that happen in my life? Or how could I earn this? Or how could I attract that? That's how badass millionaires think. And the 99%, they just criticize when they see excellence because it makes them look bad, right? Like there's nothing that'll scare people more in your life than when you start doing really, really well. That's your number one indicator that you're on the right path. Because winning is not normal. Losing is normal. Losing is normal. So when you win, you're leaving yourself wide open, right? Because everybody else is losing and you're the one parade in town. You're the one Super Bowl champion. You're the one World Series champion. You're the one major champion. And everybody else is finished second or below. So losing is normal and winning is not. It's the opposite. So to do those things, we got to do the opposite. We got to do things like take trips like that. You have to immerse yourself in the success of other people. You have to read about successful people. You have to embrace success, not resent it, not be jealous and envious. What horrible characteristics. Instead, embrace it. When everybody else is sitting around and saying, criticizing, or that guy's house, or nobody needs that much money, or nobody, or this guy here is kids in rehab and all this other horse shit, I'm like, how did he do it? How did he do it? How could I do it? What could I learn from this? You know, just and be inspired and be motivated by other people's success. That's it for me, Michael McLean, badassmillionaire.com. If you want a copy of my book, my new book, you can get it at nobullbook.com. Please subscribe to my channel. I shoot a video like this. I take you on a crazy rambling video some days when I'm out walking around the community, but I do it 365 days a year. If you want to be notified, just subscribe to my channel below. I appreciate any comments, good or bad, with these videos. I shoot them every day, no matter what. So I don't care if you like them or don't like them. It doesn't have any effect on my life whatsoever. Also, if you'd like to be placed on my world building coaching program waiting list for later this summer, you can do that below as well at badassmillionaire.com/apply. And those two links below. There's a link to my book and a link to my World Building Society. That's it for today from Naples, Florida. 2 words that change my life. 2 words that will change your life. Be relentless.